Welcome back to part 4 of this series on the 5 fears secretly running your life. Today, we're talking about a fear that will keep you lonely and stuck in life if you let it.
Life is beautiful.
Have you ever heard of a book called Predictably Irrational?
I have by Dan something. I don't know.
Ariely, I think his name
Yeah.
is. Yeah, he's a behavioral economist from
He's
MIT.
a smart dude.
Very, very intelligent. But the reason I bring it up is because there is a study that he conducts and talks about in this book where he puts students in front of this computer game. And bear with me for a second, because at first this is going to sound like a very complicated computer game, but trust me, it makes sense and there will be a payoff at the end. So there's 3 doors that appear on this computer screen game. Okay. And he gives each student 100 total clicks. And with those clicks, you can open one of those 3 doors, and inside each of them is a certain monetary amount that you will actually get put in your pocket after clicking on that door. So let's say one of them is worth $1, one of them is worth $3, one of them is worth $5.
Okay.
And every time you click that door, you get the amount of money that is inside that door. Okay, but here's the twist. Any door you haven't visited starts to physically shrink on the screen. So every time you click one door, the other 2 start to shrink. Okay. And if you don't click the other 2 doors for 12 straight clicks, they completely disappear and you're never allowed to open them again. Okay. Now, the smart thing that any normal, logical person would do is click all 3, find the one with the highest payout, and then just keep clicking it, let the other doors disappear, who gives a shit, and just keep getting your payout of the $5, $5 over and over and over for all 100 clicks. But that is not what these people did.
What did they do?
And these MIT students would click on the $5 one, but then the moment the other 2 were about to disappear, they had to click on them to bring them back to full size, because psychologically they just would not allow those 2 doors to completely close and be eliminated from the screen. They wanted to keep their options open. And then to test this even further, to make them seem even more dumb, he basically said, okay, we're going to do another version of this where even if those doors disappear for free, you could just click a button and they'll come back. And they still did not allow the doors to disappear. That's how much the fear of basically losing those things, that's how much they wanted to keep their options open. Isn't that crazy?
That does not sound like a very intelligent MIT student that participated in this.
Yeah,
Maybe
but
they were hungover.
We're hardwired to keep our options open. The fear we're talking about today is the fear of commitment. And the fear of commitment is not so much about the fear of committing to something. It's more so the fear of missing out on the things that you're holding open.
It's the fear of what committing to something means.
You lose.
And in relation to what you're giving up to get it.
Because committing to something means letting go of something else. And we hate that feeling of losing what we already have.
Yeah.
And this shows up as someone saying, I'm being responsible. I'm keeping my options open. I have a plan B, C, D, E, F, G, and H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. I'm keeping all my options open. I'm staying flexible, right? This is the way that we convince ourselves that we're not being fearful of commitment. We're just being smart about this whole thing. The same way those MIT students
I got to push back on you. There are times where it is smart to have that mindset.
I
when
think
you're in a phase of experimentation, it is good to have a couple.
So give me a specific example.
In dating, okay, I'm not going to commit. I'm going to go on 100 dates. I'm going to keep 100 doors open because I want to just see what's out there and what what do I enjoy in a significant other.
I actually can agree with that. So I that's why I wanted to take my time preparing for this episode, because I actually completely agree with you. And I feel like the best way to deal with the fear of commitment is a concept that we learned from a previous podcast guest named Anne-Laure Le Cunff, who was a neuroscientist who recently wrote a book called Tiny Experiments. Because what a tiny experiment allows you to do is to commit to something while still keeping your options open, which seems crazy, but here's how it works. Basically, a tiny experiment says, I'm going to commit to X action for Y number of days, weeks, or months. Basically, Y is the time axis. So if you're doing this dating commitment, right?
Mm,
I'm going to commit to going on 10 different dates with 10 different people over the next 6 months.
mm.
And then I'm going to analyze that data, basically. And then I'll pick another tiny experiment that I want to run. Maybe your next tiny experiment is
So
I'm going to go on one date with the same person for
yeah,
5 dates
see,
to see how it goes.
so the commitment in that case is to the experiment,
Exactly
not
right.
to a specific thing or
Yes.
outcome,
Because the
right?
last thing we want to do is keep our options limitlessly open for
Yeah,
no set time horizon, because that is what makes us start to feel lost in life. That is what starts to make us feel uncertain about things. We need that feeling of commitment. We need that certainty in life so
yeah.
that we can feel certain about
Yeah,
ourselves.
we experienced this firsthand. When we first quit our job, we were doing like 6 different projects at once to
Yep.
try to figure out what the hell we were gonna do, and we would quickly go from one to the next, and really didn't have any success, and then we made this one video, we posted online, and that's when we met Todd Chafee, the venture capitalist in California, and he instilled this wisdom onto us. He said,
You got to commit.
"Listen, you gotta drop everything you're doing and put all your eggs in this basket and commit to Blankets of Hope because I really see an opportunity to go very far with this. But it can only happen if you commit to it."
Yep.
And he was 100% right.
Yep.
Because even though we couldn't see where it was going, when we put all of our energy into it, is when the magic started happening.
Yeah. And shiny object syndrome is a real thing.
Mm,
If you're an entrepreneur, there's always going to be a better and brighter idea. The AI tools that are coming out every day, it's like, ooh, maybe I should do this thing. Maybe I should do this thing. It's really, really hard to stay committed, but commitment is truly the foundational key to success. That's at least what we found.
yeah.
But I think still the best idea from this episode is the idea of tiny experiments, because it's applicable no matter what stage you're at in your life, whether it's the
Yeah.
experimentation stage where you want to test out a few different things, or whether it's the full blown commitment. You could
Yeah.
even just make a longer tiny experiment, right?
Yeah. And if you want a deeper dive on what a tiny experiment is and some more examples of how to use it, Mike will link it in the show notes.
Yes, I will.
Yeah,
I will
we'll link
tell.
our episode with the author of the book in the show notes so you can dive deeper into that. But what's the call to action for today?
The call to action is to pick a tiny experiment to run, and bonus points if it's to help you in an area of your life where you feel like there's some indecision that you're feeling,
Mm,
whether it's your career or a relationship. Like I said, tiny experiment is I'm going to do X action for Y amount of time. That's
mm,
all it is. So fill in your X, fill in your Y, run a tiny experiment, and commit to that tiny experiment for the full time that you said you will do it.
mm.
And that'll put you on a track that'll give you certainty that you need. And then after the experiment is done, you look at the data and you decide what you want to do next. But to have one foot in, one foot out all the time is going to just create chaos in your life. So pick a tiny experiment to help you get that feeling of certainty you're looking for. And yeah, that's it.
All right. Thanks for hanging out with us. Love you.
Peace.